This lesson overviews how to use the email notification dialog box to set up email server settings, add email notifications for events, and edit and delete email notifications. After completing this lesson, you will be able to set up an email notification for when an event occurs. This feature is available in these editions of ACC software. Before email notifications can be sent, the site must be given access to an email service. Click here to start a new task. Access the site setup page by clicking here. Then, click this button to set up external notifications. In this dialog box, select this tab to access the email server settings. In this area, complete the following steps. Enter a name to represent the site in all email notifications. Enter an email address for the site. Add a subject line for all emails sent from the site. Displayed here is the default subject line. Enter the SMTP server address used by the email. The default SMTP port is shown here. Change it if the account has a different port number. Set the maximum amount of time the server will try to send an email before it quits. If the email server uses encryption, you can check the checkbox here to use a secure connection. If the email account has a username and password, check the checkbox here to authenticate the account. You will then need to enter the username and password for the email account. Finally, click here to apply the changes. Now, you can create email notification groups to specify who will receive email notifications when certain events occur. Select this tab to set up the email notification groups. Click here to add a new group. A new email group will appear in the Emails Groups list. Click the email group name and enter a name for the new email group. In this area, you can add all the users, groups, and individual emails that are part of this email group. Click here to add a site user or access group. In the dialog box, select all the required users and groups. Make sure the site users in the email recipient list have a valid email in their user account. Once you've selected your users and groups, click the highlighted button to add them to the list of recipients. In order to set up individual notifications, click here to add their respective email addresses. The dialog box will prompt you to enter the email address. Click here to add the email to the recipient list. You can click here to send a test email to everyone on the email recipients list. In this area, you can select all the events that this email group will receive email notifications about. Click here to define the event requirements. To attach a snapshot of the email notification event, check the checkbox here to attach images from any linked cameras. In this area, set the schedule for the email notification. You can select an existing schedule or create a new schedule. To use a configured schedule, select an option from the drop-down list. The default option is Always, which allows the event to run constantly. To create a new schedule, click here. Then, select this option to access the schedule configuration window. In this dialog box, give the new schedule a name. Give the recurrence a name as well. You can add multiple recurrences to create a detailed schedule. Click here to add a new recurrence to the schedule. To delete a recurrence, make sure it's selected and then click here. In this field, enter the start time for the recurrence. Enter the end time for the recurrence here. Be aware that if you enter an end time that is earlier than the start time, the event will span 2 days. For example, if the schedule is set to start 12 p.m. and end at 11:59 a.m., the event is automatically enabled from 12 p.m. on day 1 to 11:59 a.m. on day 2. In this field, enter when the recurrence would begin. In this area, schedule how often the event would be enabled during this recurrence by selecting the appropriate radio button: daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly. And then inputting the space of time between each schedule recurrence. If needed, select a specific day or days for the schedule to take place. Click here to save the new schedule. To change or delete a schedule, select the schedule, then click here. Note, if a schedule is currently active, it cannot be deleted. To limit the number of emails sent, enter the minimum amount of time between each email in this field. Setting a limit ensures that all events within this interval are included in the same email body. Click here to save your changes. To edit or delete notifications, access the dialog box by clicking here. You can edit email notifications by first selecting the email group and then making the required changes. To delete an email notification group, first select the group you wish to delete, and then click here to remove the notification group. Central Station Monitoring notifications allow an ACC site to notify a third-party central monitoring company when an event of interest occurs. Once you've enabled your ACC site to send notifications, you must create rules that would cause notifications to be sent. If you use a central monitoring service, you can set up the ACC site to communicate with your central monitoring services using either XML email notifications or SIA over IP notifications. In the External Notifications dialog window, click the highlighted tab to access Central Station Monitoring settings. Ensure that the Enable Central Station Monitoring checkbox is selected. In the highlighted drop-down menu, you can set the type of central monitoring system notification. The XML email option sends email notifications to the central monitoring service using SMTP. The SIA over IP option sends Security Industry Association notifications to the central monitoring service using IP. If you select the XML email option, you will see the following fields for which you need to input notification details. This information should be provided to you by your central monitoring service. You will at least need to input the monitoring service's name, email, and SMTP server information for the service to be able to identify you in their system. If you want to limit access to the server, input a username and password required for authentication. If you select the SIA over IP option, you will see the following fields for which you need to input notification details. This information should be provided to you by your central monitoring service. You will at least need to input the primary and secondary server IP addresses and port numbers. To periodically check the state of the connection to the central monitoring service, select a time interval from the highlighted drop-down list. To send a test message, click the highlighted button. Once you have set your Central Station Monitoring notification settings, click the highlighted button to save and apply them. To sum up, in this lesson, you learned to use the Email Notification dialog box to set up email server settings, add email notifications for events, and edit or delete email notifications.